These are the guided practice notes for lesson 8.2. First, if we look volume of a cylinder, so cylinder top and bottom are circles. If you cut a line down the body of the cylinder and unraveled it, you would have a square or a rectangular shape. On these problems, they're asking us to find the volume, which is how much will that hold. So volume of cylinders and prisms, the formula is volume equals capital B times the height. Capital B is the base, and what that means is the area of the base. And in cylinders and prisms, you have two bases, and they are the two sides that are parallel to each other. So that would be the top and the bottom here. If it was tipped over sideways, it'd be the left and the right, but nonetheless, they are the circles. So the top is a circle, the bottom is a circle, and those two are parallel, so that makes them the bases. So when you're finding volume of cylinders and prisms, you find the area of one of your bases, and then you multiply it by how tall it is. Now, how tall it is the distance between the two bases. So as you see in the cylinder here, the distance between the two circles is 5 inches. So can't always think of height meaning vertical. Again, if that cylinder is laying on its side, the height is still 5. The height is the distance between the two bases. Okay? So if we look at number 1 and number 2 here, again, you'll see for pi, we're using 3.14. So don't use the pi button on your calculator. Make sure you type in 3.14 for pi. So in number 1, we have a cylinder with radius of 5 centimeters, a height of 7.5. So again, our formula is volume equals capital B times the height, and the base in a cylinder is a circle. So the area of a circle is pi r squared. And again, we're going to use 3.14 for pi. So for problem number 1, we plug in everything that we know. We don't know the volume, that's what we're solving for. So volume equals pi is 3.14, and our radius is 5 squared, so times 5 squared. So that gives us capital B. The area of our base would be 3.14 times 5 squared. And then we multiply that times the height, which is 7.5. Then we use our calculators, multiply all of that together, 3.14 times 5 squared times 7.5. And we get 588.75. And it asks us to round that to the nearest tenth. And the 5 is big enough to change the 7 to 588.8. And then we label that centimeters, and since it's area, centimeters squared. 588.8 centimeters. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not area, it is volume. So it's 588.8 centimeters cubed. We're finding the volume of the cylinder, so centimeters cubed. Okay, if you want to try number 2 and then see the answer, go ahead. Be careful on number 2, they give you the diameter there instead of the radius. Okay, and number 2, volume equals 3.14 times the radius squared. So if 7 is your diameter, diameter is all the way across, but we want the radius, so we only want halfway. We only want halfway across, so half of 7 would be 3.5 squared, radius squared, times the height, which is 5. So there's your formula that you would write on your paper. Now you use your calculator to do all the work. 3.14 times 3.5 squared times 5, and we get 192.325. And they're asking us to round to the nearest tenths. When we do that, we get 192.3. The 2 is not big enough to change the 3, and it's inches, and since it's volume, inches cubed. 192.3 inches cubed. Okay, so that is finding volume of cylinders. Let's look on the next page. And we got some charts to fill in here, again using 3.14 for pi. So this time what they're doing is they're telling us the volume. So the volume of the cylinder is 1,808.64, and they're asking us what is the height. So we use the same formula, volume equals capital B times the height, which is volume equals 3.14 times the radius squared, again 3.14 times radius squared, that's what B is, times the height. So now what we do, we just fill in what we know. So we use the same formula and we fill in what we know. So in this line here, the volume of the tank, we know that that's 1,808.64. So if we look at our formula, volume is 1,808.64, and that equals, we know 3.14 stays 3.14, times, and then it tells us that the radius is 12 meters, so 12 squared times h. So h is what we don't know. So if we look over here filling in the blanks, volume is 1,808.64. And then the four things that I wrote over here, 3.14 times 12 squared times the height. So what they are doing is they're writing 12 squared as 12 times 12. So I can't really write in here what everything should be, but this should be 3.14. This should be 12, 12, and then h. Good. And then again, our volume 1,808.64. So they just changed 12 squared to 12 times 12. So at this point, our goal is to get h by itself. So we combine all of our like terms, we do all the math on the right side with the h, which is to do 3.14 times 12 times 12. And when we do that, we get 1,808.64 equals 452.16, no need to round that, times h. And then filling in the blanks here, 1808.64, and we end up with 452.16 times h. Tough for me to write all that in those blanks there, so. Now, again, goal to get the h all by itself, so we need to get rid of this 452.16, which is multiplying the h. So to get rid of it, we do the opposite, which is to divide. So 452.16. And if I divide the right side of the equal sign by 452.16, I have to divide the left side by 452.16. So type, just use your calculator to do that work. 1,808.64 divided by 452.16, and we get 4 equals, these cancel, number divided by itself is 1, and 1 times h is h. So we get, for a height, we get 4, and we label that 4 meters. And over here, again, divide both sides by 452.16, and we'll get 4 for our answer there. So these two lines should be this work right there. Okay, a lot of big numbers for me to try to put on those blanks there. Okay, so that's using the formula where they're giving us the volume and we're solving for h. So it's just like the equations that you've been solving all year. But just plug in what you know and then start getting rid of numbers to get the variable by itself. And again, this is labeled just in meters because we're finding just the height, not the area, not the volume. Okay, let's go to the next page. On number 4 there, guided practice number 4, we are finding the surface area of the cylinder. So to find the surface area of a cylinder, this is your formula there. It's 2 times pi times r squared. So what that gives us is the area of the top and the bottom, the two circles. So pi r squared is the area of one circle, and since they're the same, we multiply it by 2, and that gives us the area of both circles, plus 2 times pi times the radius times the height, or pi times the diameter times the height. 2 times r, multiplying the radius by 2, gives you the diameter. So you can use either one of those formulas, pi times the diameter times the height, or 2 pi times the radius times the height. Okay? Now you just plug in all of the information. Again, we're using this formula right there. So it says the cylinder has a radius of 4 and a height of 7. Find the area. So 2 times 3.14 times the radius, which is 4, squared, plus 2 times 3.14 times the radius, which is 4, times the height, which is 7. Again, all of this gives you the circles, both circles, and then what this does is gives you the body. And we want all of it, so we find the area of both circles, the area of the body, and add them all together. So area equals all of that. Then you just use your calculator and type it in as written. So 2 times 3.14 times 4 squared plus 2 times 3.14 times 4 times 7. Hit enter and you get 276.32. And again, they want us to round those to the nearest tenth, and the 2 is not big enough to do that. So 276.3, and it is in centimeters. And again, we are finding area. Even though it's a three-dimensional figure, you're finding area, so it's all of the outside, so it's always labeled units squared as opposed to volume, which is units cubed. Okay? And I'll do number 5 on a separate lesson, but there is 1 through 4.